Stand by SOT1.
Standing.
10 seconds. Ready, rollin'. Ready, SOT1.
Ready.
In 4, 3, 2, 1. Roll in.
From legendary Uncle Studios in beautiful Southern California, welcome to another edition of WorkCompMatters, the central location for you employees, you employers, and of course, we haven't forgotten about you damn independent contractors. And now, here's this week's edition of WorkCompMatters.
12 noon straight up, May 28th. Welcome to another edition of WorkCompMatters. My name is Steve Appell. We are brought to you by the workcompcentral.com. If you want the number one location for workers' compensation in both California and around the United States, check out the workcompcentral.com. They've got a free 7-day offer. And if you want to pick up their services, I have them. You should too. It's only $1 a day. WorkCompMatters is also brought to you by A1 Law, number one computer management system, 818-357-4120 for your no strings attached, money back guaranteed. Also $1 a day, A1 Law. As usual, I am joined by my Chief of Staff, Dr. Mike Zyma, and the madman across the water, John Scalia. Got to thank both of them for holding down the fort yesterday. Well, I had 2 Zoom depots. By the way, I did settle them both. In addition, I had a Zoom depot this morning and settled that sucker too. So, babe, I'm 3 for 3.
Studley.
There you go.
Studley.
There you go. There you go. For those of you that may not know, Donald Trump is set to announce an executive order against social media today. And for those of you that know me well, know me a little bit, maybe have just heard the show, I am a huge First Amendment advocate. I may be a rhino, Republican in name only, but when it comes to the First Amendment, as long as you're not yelling fire in a crowded theater, I am in. So I'm going to start the story, or pardon me, the show off with the Donald. He is set to announce an executive order against social media companies today after Twitter called 2 of his tweets potentially misleading. The draft executive order being prepared by the Trump administration tests the boundaries of the White House's authority. In a long shot legal bid, oh, by the way, this story is by CNN. Thank you very much. It seeks to curtail the power of large social media platforms by reinterpreting a critical 1996 law that shields websites and tech companies from lawsuits. It marks a dramatic escalation by Trump in his war with tech companies as they struggle with the growing problem of misinformation on social media. The president has regularly accused sites of censoring conservative speech. The draft order, which apparently was reviewed by CNN, and I do not have a copy, targets a law known as the Communications Decency Act. Section 230 of the legislation provides broad immunity to websites that curate and moderate their own platforms, and has been described by legal experts as, quote, the 26 words that created the internet, close quote. It argues that the protections hinge mainly on tech platforms operating in good faith, and that social media companies have not. In a country that has long cherished the freedom of expression, we cannot allow a limited number of online platforms to handpick the speech that Americans may access and convey online. The draft order says this practice is fundamentally un-American and anti-democratic. When large, powerful social media companies censor opinions which they disagree, they exercise a dangerous power. On Tuesday, Twitter applied a fact check to two of Donald Trump's tweets, including one that falsely claimed mail-in ballots would lead to widespread voter fraud. And let me stop right there. I don't believe that's exactly what Donald Trump said. I thought he said simply that it creates more voter fraud. I didn't hear him say widespread voter fraud, but maybe I'm wrong.
He used the word
Continuing
substantially.
on.
Substantially. He used the word substantially.
Substantially increased voter fraud.
Correct,
Thank you, Mike.
correct.
Trump immediately shot back, accusing the social media giant of censorship and warning that if it continued to offer addendums to his messages, he would use the power of the federal government to rein it in or even shut it down. Yeah, like Donald Trump is going to shut down Twitter. I mean, he doesn't have press conferences anymore. He tweets out 20 times a day. Continuing on. The draft order also accuses social media platforms of, quote, invoking inconsistent, irrational, groundless justifications to censor or otherwise punish American speech here at home, close quote. It also faults Google for helping the Chinese government surveil its citizens, Twitter for spreading Chinese propaganda, and Facebook for profiting from Chinese advertising. Facebook, Google, and Twitter did not immediately respond to CNN to a request for comment. That is today's lead story on WorkCompmatters. And as soon as we get the executive order, I will, of course, post it on my Facebook, and I'm sure we'll talk about it in the future. But I first want to go to the madman across the water who is living the socialist life. John, take a couple of minutes, because I know you could take a couple of hours. What's your take? What's your take on our lead story?
Well, it's clear that Donald Trump has no idea what freedom of speech means. It's also clear that he doesn't know what censorship means. But apparently he loves censorship, because what he wants to do essentially is censor social media. They didn't stop his right of free speech. They simply put an addenda on that said, the president is alleging that mail ballots are subject or can substantially increase fraud, and there's no proof of this. Okay? So that's free speech in response to his speech. So what he's saying is, if you disagree with me, you're violating America's rights, because what I say is law. Yeah, the man is, as I said, he's insane, he's stupid, and he can't read. And he certainly can't read the First Amendment. The First Amendment guarantees freedom of speech. That means that I can say Donald Trump is insane. Thank you very much. And if I put that on Twitter, and as you know, when I had you check with your local favorite psychiatrist, he agreed with me that Trump was insane. And that was a couple years ago. And so, that's the whole point of freedom of speech. You put things that you disagree with.
For the record, he agreed he was a psychopath. Okay.
Sociopath.
Sociopath. Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, that's insane, pal. I mean,
Okay.
Psychiatrists don't use the language insane. They don't use the language Looney Tunes, because those are not diagnostic terms. But sociopath is a diagnostic term, which in layman's term means insane. Okay?
All right.
You're a sociopath. You belong in the asylum. I mean, I've cross-examined more than my share of psychiatrists. I'm familiar with the diagnostic statistical manual. I know all the terms and how they work. Yes, that means you're nuts, okay? Except, again, nuts is not in the diagnostic statistical manual, because psychiatrists would not get a lot of money if they said nuts instead of sociopath. But anyhow, back to the free speech issue. You know, what Trump is doing is he's canceling America's right to free speech. Yes, I understand that the social media platforms are essentially unregulated, but that's the whole point. But he's the president of the United States. So when he lies, it's important that there's a check on it. And that's all that's going on. They didn't even say he lied. They just said, well, he said this and there's no proof of that. Well, you know, that's called free speech. It's called debate. It's called an exchange of ideas. But again, ideas are something that he never has and never will have and never has had. So there.
All right. Well, normally I would say, John, tell me what you really think, but I don't think that's necessary. Doc, yes, my chief of staff, he keeps me in check and hopefully out of trouble at least 90% of the time. He's a doctor, but not a medical doctor. Mike Zyma, what do you think of the anticipated executive order by Donald Trump regarding social media platforms?
Well, I don't think I can describe it in terms of the DSM-3 or whatever number it is now that John is able to do. But what strikes me is the word paranoid. He is
what word? What word?
Paranoid.
Paranoid. Okay, go ahead.
Paranoid.
Go ahead.
He is an incumbent president who's really getting his butt kicked by something that he cannot bully and he cannot BS. That's the virus. He can't bully the virus. So he's in uncharted territory for him. I think that had the virus not come, and of course that's moot because it is here, but had the virus not come, the economy would continue to go wild and he would win in a landslide. But he is paranoid. I mean, Nixon was going to win get reelected in a landslide, and he still authorized the break-in. So that's why I'm using the word paranoid. I'm just seeing more and more evidence of this guy being paranoid. I don't think, like John does, as I understand it, that Trump is just a garden variety stupid person. I don't generally think that garden variety stupid people get elected president. But, you know, John and I have had our debates on this, and I appreciate his opinion. I think John presents his opinion in good faith. I think, you know, whatever John is saying, as usual, he believes it.
Well, I can certainly tell you this. Sorry for interrupting. Donald Trump is the first candidate for president who had both the Democratic as well as the Republican Party saying, don't vote for this guy. He had both parties against him, and he won the election. So I agree that he's not stupid. Now, he may be clinically insane or whatever, but a lot of insane people or whatnot are extremely smart. Donald Trump is an expert at the media. Donald Trump is even more of an expert of using the media to deflect from what's really going on in the public consciousness. I mentioned to you in talking to both of you prior to the start of today's show that apparently Donald Trump did not say one thing, nor did he issue one tweet about the death count in the United States going up to 100,000, which was all over the news. He didn't say anything yesterday when it happened.
He did say something today. He tweeted something which can be summarized as, gee, that's too bad. We're sorry about that. Thoughts and prayers. Thoughts and prayers.
My point being is that when it was all over the media yesterday, Trump didn't have one word to say about it. Now he comes out this morning and, you know, says whatever, okay? And what he came out instead was that this executive order is going to be signed, okay? Now, I'm with you guys. I don't know any power that the executive branch of the United States government has over social media platforms. I thought he was going to somewhat maybe go after the ISPs, the internet service providers, because they are linked to the net neutrality law. But apparently that's not the issue here. He wants, apparently, the social media platforms to be legally and or civilly liable for the content that they allow, which I find fascinating, because Trump's tweets, you can pick them apart and say that every single one of them is not correct. Then again, you can argue tooth and nail that, well, that's what he said, but it's not what he meant, and blah, 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 blah. So I really, because I am a total First Amendment advocate, as I said at the start of the show, I really want to see where this goes. My name is Steve Appell. You're dialed in to Work Comp Matters. We are brought to you by workcompcentral.com. If you want the number one location for workers' compensation in both California and around the United States, check out workcompcentral.com. They've got a free 7-day offer, and you should pick up their services because I have them too, damn it. Work Comp Matters is also brought to you by A1 Law. As Mike said yesterday, all of you need to experience the power of A1 Law. 818-357-4120 for your no strings attached money back guarantee, $1 a day. A1 Law. Mike, if you want, you can take the first news story right now.
Okay. News. Well, there's a couple of them here. Let me just do this one. In revised budget plan, Newsom proposes shuttering 2 state prisons. Governor Gavin Newsom proposed shuttering 2 state prisons within the next 3 years, ultimately saving the state about $400 million annually. That's a much faster timeline than the governor envisioned just a few months ago. His original budget in January proposed closing 1 prison in the next 5 years if the inmate population continued its decade-long decline. Now the state is facing a projected $54 billion deficit through the next fiscal year and tens of billions more in years to come because of the pandemic-induced economic recession. Funding for schools, universities, and healthcare programs is likely to suffer. Newsom is looking everywhere for solutions, including changes that could allow thousands of inmates to earn a quicker release, positioning California to close a prison for the first time since 2003. And guys, I'm just wondering what kind of inmates are going to be released. I assume that they will have been guilty of property crimes. John, what do you think?
Well, my understanding is 50% of all inmates are in there for drug-related crimes. So I would assume he's going to release all the drug offenders who are nonviolent. They should just. I was just going to ask John. Those 50%, are they drug-related violent crimes? My impression is most of them are not.
Okay, all right.
And I would advise them once they're released not to go to Minnesota.
That's another topic.
John dropped the subject of George Floyd, which we can talk about after this if you guys want to.
I'd love to.
Oh, yeah.
Because
okay, well, obviously John's finished talking about that, and you guys want to talk about George Floyd. Fair enough.
This one seems to me to be the most egregious example of cop on African American violence. Okay, there was another one a couple years ago, back in the East somewhere, where the guy ran away and the officer shot him in the back and then dropped a gun on him and then handcuffed him while he was dead. In this one, it appears to me that, and there were 4 cops there, 4 police officers, the other 3, of course, which did nothing. But the main perp, in my view, he got his rocks off killing this guy, folks. He had his knee on the guy's trachea, essentially. He had his knee on his neck, and the look on his face was that he was enjoying killing this person. And this guy.
And Mike,
yes.
did you see the video while he was doing it? He had one of his hands in his pocket.
Yes, like
Did
it
you
was.
see that?
Yes, like it was a day at the beach.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Did the both of you notice that for the approximate 5 to 8 minutes that his knee was on the guy's neck, either that cop or one of the other 3 cops told George Floyd to get up, go ahead and get up at least 3 times?
I did not hear.
I didn't hear that.
I did not hear any of the officers tell the
Go
guy.
back and watch that, because if indeed that's true, what I believe that means is basically the police officer was inviting him to get up so he could apply more pressure to his neck and hopefully bolster his BS argument that George Floyd was a resisting arrest, which obviously he did not do.
Well, did you hear it, Steve?
That's speculation. I mean, what we know in the video is that the guy's on the ground. He's not resisting anything, and the cop is applying pressure to him. We also know that the guy was arrested for a nonviolent crime, if he indeed committed it, because it was alleged that he passed a bad check or forged a check.
It was a $20 bill. It was a counterfeit $20 bill, John, allegedly.
We also know that when he was on the ground and the officer was applying his knee to his neck, that George Floyd was on his stomach with his hands handcuffed behind his back.
Yes.
Yeah.
And my understanding is, although I didn't hear this, that he was calling for his mother who died.
Yes. No.
His mother who died 2 years ago. And the 3 other officers did nothing. Nothing.
They just stood around. I don't know why.
They were there for the killing party. I'm sorry, this stuff makes me nuts.
I don't understand why they're not in jail. I don't understand why they're not in jail right now, and why they haven't been booked, and why they haven't been charged.
Well, that's what the mayor's saying. That's what the mayor's saying.
John,
well, the mayor's right.
John, let me ask you a question, because I posted something in Facebook, and I don't know if I got an answer yet. But as far as the body cams, because apparently at least one, if not all of the officers were wearing body cams.
Yes, and they were operating. Yes.
How discoverable are the body cams?
I think they're totally discoverable. That's why they exist.
Completely relevant.
Yeah, but you don't really need them because the whole thing was filmed anyway. I mean, nowadays,
not the whole thing. We didn't see how he went down.
No, John, not the whole thing.
I want to see how he went down. I want to see how he went down.
What I saw was that he was handcuffed behind his back, and they apparently were walking him to the sidewalk or something. Then they started walking him back to the car, and for some reason, he sort of keeled over. They picked him up, they got him closer to the car, and then for another reason, he keeled over. And then that's when they started applying pressure to his neck by the officer's knee. There is a part of that arrest before the knee being pressured to the neck that we do not see.
That's a good point.
I would say if they thought they were getting him to the car by putting his knee on the neck, they have a lower IQ than Donald Trump.
And we've just got a comment on Facebook from my brother that indicates they've released a redacted version of their body cams at this time. This is a topic that's been discussed before and will be discussed in the future. One, how come the body cam film is not released immediately? That's what it's for.
Well, you've got a very strong union everywhere. Cops have strong unions. And so I'm sure that's the reason, and as you know, I've represented management, I've represented cops.
But unfortunately, when you were doing it, they didn't have body cams, right?
Probably, no, I don't think they did.
Yeah.
But that doesn't change the power of the union. And
right.
You can't, body cams don't exist in a void, and everything to do with cops has got to do with their unions.
Oh, so the union says, yeah, sure, all of our members will wear body cams. However, when we turn them on, when we turn them off, and what portions of the film we release, that's going to be discussed in the future.
Well, I think the last part is true. Otherwise, they wouldn't have issued a redacted version. Why would you redact it unless you were under pressure from the cops not to release the unredacted version?
Okay, well, and now my brother, okay, here we go. My brother just posted on my Facebook the redacted version that the police released. I cannot watch it right now, but my brother comments, nothing really to see on it. In other words, the film that was taken by the bystander who was watching the whole thing apparently is better than this.
I'm sorry, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. There's some gaps. Somebody's withholding something. If all four of those police officers, if all four of those police officers had their cameras going, and the complete film allegedly doesn't fill in any gaps, then somebody's withholding something.
Well, if you really want to
hold on. Maybe you didn't hear me correctly because of the connection. The police have released a redacted version. The police are not saying they released the whole thing. They say it's redacted. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And I was just going to say, if you really want to see the police union in action, just suggest having a civilian review board.
Wow. You know what, guys, though? I mean, the other page, turn the page, it's the violent response that is one of the things that is that I'm worried about. Now, in Minneapolis last night, my understanding is that it got pretty crazy. My understanding also
it got crazy in downtown LA yesterday. However, downtown LA was not a protest. Downtown LA, in my opinion, was just an excuse to conduct mayhem.
Well, that's true, but downtown LA was not like downtown Minneapolis last night, okay? There was property damage, fires, all kinds of crazy crap, and then also my understanding is that a store owner, and if I was a store owner, hold on one second, please. That a store owner, and if I was a store owner, I'd certainly have a weapon too, but my understanding is that a store owner fired his weapon and killed a looter. Did you hear different, Steve?
And my understanding is that in downtown LA on the Harbor Freeway, traffic was stopped.
Yeah, I saw it.
I saw it. And people on foot were bashing in police cars. Okay?
There was that
totally unacceptable. We are out of time
already.
But this is, hey, what can I tell you?
Wow.
You know, when you're having fun, it goes by fast.
My goodness. Okay.
So we go from Donald Trump and his executive order to the police and George Floyd. We will be reporting more on that. I want to thank you all very much for listening. And thank you to my brother, Mike Appell, for contributing to the show on my Facebook. For the madman across the water, John Scalia, for my chief of staff, Dr. Mike Zyma, for Scott Walton of Uncle's Studio, and for all the good people back at WorkCompcentral that continue to support and approve of this valuable project, including but not limited to Ms. Kristen Chavez. My name is Steve Appell. We'll see you again next week for another. We'll see you again tomorrow at noon for another edition of Work Comp Matters.
Rock and roll.